We are taking our viewers now live to East Albury in New South Wales. That's where the opposition leader, Peter Dutton, is holding a news conference. He's taking questions. Let's listen in.
Australians get through difficult times, and the economic management that we are well known for is not an end in itself. It's about providing a better outcome for families. It's about making sure that you live within your means and with it don't rack up too much debt that when interest rates go up and the government's interest bill goes up, you can't afford to pay for the other services. When we came into government in 2013, we were inheriting a Labor debt that was projected to be $667 billion. And we put in place measures which got us back to a balanced budget position, and then we hit COVID. So we have a lot of things that we're good at. One of the things that we're not good at is selling what we've done and how effective we've been in the past, and we need to talk more about that. The highest uptake of solar per capita anywhere in the world is in our country as a result of Liberal and National Party investments and policy decisions. So lots more that we can talk about, and we will.
Minister Dutton, question for 7. What lessons have you learned then from the weekend's loss in Aston?
Well, we're looking forward now, and the opportunity for us is to make sure that we work on the policies that are relevant to Australians. Australians heard the government promise that they were going to reduce power prices and reduce mortgages, and instead under Labor in 10 months they've only gone up. I think there are many things that we've been able to support the government on, and we'll continue to do that. But we want to make decisions that are going to help families and small businesses, not hurt them. And at the moment there are many economic decisions. I mean, this decision by the Prime Minister to tax unrealised capital gains. Just think about that for a moment. So before you sell the property, you end up paying tax on the gain that hasn't been realised. So a big impact on cash flow and disposal of that property. The government has no answers at the moment in relation to housing affordability and the rental crisis, and we'll have all of those policies to put to the Australian people by the next election, and that's our job, and we will do that with great effect. And at the 10-month mark, people who are suggesting the government should have their fully costed policies out on the table, that was never a feature of any previous government, any previous opposition, including Mr Albanese.
Mr Dutton, you're here speaking to people in Albury about cost of living. That was a key issue going into the federal election as well. What are you hearing from people in Albury, and what will you take away to shape policies?
Well, we've just arrived, so to be fair, we haven't had a chance to speak to too many people, but we're here sort of for the next 12 hours or so, and we'll be getting around speaking to a lot. But my sense is that in many regional areas where we're not in drought and where commodity prices have been high, particularly cattle prices and other aspects of farming production are doing well. Well, that feeds back into the cities, and farmers and their workers are able to spend money. But we know that for small businesses, their overdrafts are already double-digit interest rates, and we know that there are some producers and others who are really starting to feel a pinch, because if people are paying $20,000 or more a year under Labor for their mortgage, it means that they're less inclined to go out and buy lunch or spend money at a cafe or a restaurant on the weekend, and that over time has a negative impact, and we need to be very conscious of that. So I suspect there's some of the messages that we might hear, but we're very keen to talk to people and hear what's on their mind, and that's a good part of opposition, right? When you're in government, you're very busy with the government department. Managing all of that on a day-to-day basis in opposition, it gives you an ability to get out and speak to people, to hear what it is that's impacting their families, their small businesses, and that will help shape our policy and run up to the next election.
And you'll be speaking to regional operators throughout this year as well as those in the big cities?
We will, very much a regional focus. Too much of the government's effort is really concentrated on capital cities, and we are the party of regional and rural Australia. We provide support by way of policy. We did it with the instant asset write-off, with trade deals that opened up markets for farmers and producers, because we produce more in our country than we can consume as a population of only 25.8 million people. And we ran a very strong economy, and if you've got confidence in the economy, people will spend and they'll invest. We were talking to an operator the other day who had made a decision to pull out of $1 billion investment into New South Wales which was going to create 700 jobs. But just with the uncertainty in the market at the moment with Labor's policies on tax and energy, they decided to take that and spend it and invest it elsewhere in another country. And they're worrying signs. And whenever Labor comes into government, the economy always turns bad because they make the wrong economic decisions. And rural Australians, people in regional areas, feel that acutely, and we've got to make sure that our policies provide support to people living in regional Australia, and they're an incredibly important part of our country, and we should show them respect by visiting regularly, and that's exactly what we've been doing.
Another national question: what should Labor be doing to tackle inflation, especially with this May budget ahead?
Well, you've got a projection by the government to spend well over $140 billion or collect that in extra taxes over the course of the next few years. They're going to spend that money, and if you've got a government that's pumping more and more money into the economy, that does fuel inflation. And if the government continues to chase inflation, then that will result not in inflation coming down. And that's the history. And this is why Labor governments have got into trouble in the past, because they can't manage money. And Australian families end up paying for that. The Reserve Bank met on 96 occasions when the coalition was in government. They raised interest rates on one occasion. The Labor Party has been in government for 10 months and will see interest rates increase on 10 different occasions, and I hope not again today, but we'll wait for that advice this afternoon. But it's obvious by all of the analysis at the moment that the view seems to be that inflation will be sticky, it'll remain high, above the Reserve Bank band, their target band, and that will mean higher interest rates under Labor for longer than otherwise has to be the case.
So should he have his term renewed in September?
Well, that's an issue for the government.
Mr. Dutton, a couple of questions from our ABC party team in Canberra on TikTok. The government's announced a ban on TikTok on government-issued devices, something that you support?
Well, it is something that we'll support, and obviously we'll support decisions that the government makes that keep us safe and that are in our national interest. The government's been very praiseworthy of Scott Morrison and I and others within our government for the AUKUS deal, and we put that together wanting to keep our country safe, not just today but for decades ahead. And if the government has advice that it's unsafe to have TikTok on those government phones, then they're acting on that advice, and we would support that decision. It's obviously delayed in coming, and the government will have their own reasons as to why they didn't announce it last week or the week before that, even though they had the advice to do that. So I'm sure that's an answer that they can provide to you.
And should politicians and public servants be allowed to use that app on their personal devices?
Well, those of us in public life have to take advice from the agencies, from the head of ASIO and the head of ACIS and the other intelligence agencies, and if they're providing advice, it should be adhered to. And if people have got doubts, then they can contact the relevant contacts at ASIO or ACIS. But I think if the Director General of Security is giving advice to members of Parliament, they should follow it.
And last TikTok question: do you have concerns about the broader public's use of TikTok, and are there options available for the government to either restrict the use or force TikTok's parent company to distance itself from China?
Well, look, I'd just say to particularly a lot of young Australians, we all spend a lot of time online now, on TikTok, on Instagram, other communication apps and messaging apps. Just need to be really cautious about the amount of detail and data that we put out there. It's particularly important for young boys and girls online because people are online grooming, they're assuming identities, and it can be a great place to exchange photos and videos and information and joke with your friends. But it can also be a very dangerous place because if you have somebody, whether it's a state actor or an organised crime group, collecting data, collecting personal messages, collecting those photos, that can be really worrisome. So I just think we need to listen to what the authorities are saying. They give the advice based on all of the intelligence available to them that lots of us just don't see on a day-to-day basis. And for that reason, as we would listen to the police about a drink driving message or a speeding message, or to lock your house up of a night time, you need to be safe online as well. And if people are concerned about data being vacuumed up through TikTok and other messaging apps, then the government's really got to do as much as they can on that.
We've got a very tight schedule, guys, so last one.
Okay.
One for Aubrey. are very high and even higher for businesses that have such infrastructure to run like we see here. Back in 15th of December, did you not vote down a price intervention, an energy price intervention legislated by the Albanese government?
Well, I'll just make this point about the government's bill that they got passed, right? So if they're pretending that it didn't pass, then they're not telling you the truth. So the government got that bill passed. Nobody's power bill has gone down. So let's be very clear about it. The bill went through the parliament, and I mean, just one of you tell me whether your power bill's gone down. Of course it's gone up because they're turning off an old system before the new one is built, and there's a huge demand for gas, an increasing demand for gas, and as President Biden's pointed out, in America, gas is a very significant and long-term part of their energy plan. So if you turn off gas, which is what the Labor Party is proposing, you're going to drive up people's gas bills. If you roll out 28,000 kilometres worth of new poles and wires across people's farms and across rural communities and through national parks, as Mr Albanese is proposing, at the cost of over $100 billion, your power bills are going to go up because the gas companies and the electricity companies won't pick up that bill. They're going to pass that on. And so we're not in favour of Labor's higher power prices. We're in favour of policies that bring it down. And if you've got demand for gas increasing and you're limiting supply, the gas price is going to continue to go up. So if Labor believes that power prices have come down or electricity prices have come down, produce the evidence. It's just not the case. And I don't think anybody should be fooled by that sort of rhetoric. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.